Graham Wettone. I'm a retired police officer. I served over 30 years with the Metropolitan Police, finished as a sergeant on the public order branch. And since I've retired, I've spent about 6-7 years teaching police recruits, and also wrote a book called How to Be a Police Officer.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's get right to it. It seems to me that attacking police officers, I mean physically, I think we can deal with the politics of it all later. Attacking police officers seems to have become the norm and doesn't seem to carry the kind of sentences which the country needs to maintain law and order. I mean, there seems to be riots every day. Not quite true, but some of the violence associated around it, both verbal and physical, nobody should put up with that. If you go to Waterloo Station, there's a big sign up there that says, our employees won't be abused, and if they are, we're going to take action against you. That seems to have been forgotten against police officers, for God's sake.
Yeah, I bumped into an old colleague of mine on Monday, and he said it is a lot more violent. Confrontation is increased. He's still working. He said it's nothing like when we worked together, and it's strange, bizarre. I think there's a general lack of respect. I think that isn't helped by almost like a frequent or constant negative narrative within some media reporting around police. There seems to be constantly negative police stories. People are very quick to judge. And hindsight's a wonderful thing. But looking at police incidents almost in isolation, short edited clips on social media, everybody becomes an expert. Everyone criticises police. And I think that leads to, or that encourages, a general mistrust and almost like a confrontation towards police whenever they turn up at any incident. Everyone assumes they know exactly what's gone on, and it's the police that are in the wrong.
Right. So what can be done about this? Is an increase in the sentencing capability of courts to deal with, the slightest brush with the law the answer, or are there enough powers already existing?
I think there does need to be an increase. I think for a number of years now, assaults, attacks on police and emergency services in general haven't been, maybe punishment isn't the right word, but haven't been dealt with sufficient seriousness by the justice system. I think there's been far too many people going before the courts who have walked out literally with just a slap on the wrist, a minor fine, community service. So there's been no deterrent for violent assaults on police officers and emergency staff, A&E staff, etc. So I think it's not just policing, but it's predominantly towards police officers. I think there does need to be far more deterrent sentences imposed, because it's almost become the norm, and people are actually who attack police officers, they know they're not going to get much of a punishment. They know nothing much is going to happen to them, so that they're almost like there's a nothing to lose scenario when they're confronting or dealing with the police.
So I see that Dame Cressida Dick this morning has said that police officers should not take the knee. But the point that she made, which I thought was well made, if you're getting abuse, you've done 7-8 hour days, you've been listening to these disgusting pieces of work, giving you verbal abuse, you can understand why those two police officers did do it. And the other point, which I thought was well made, was that a lot of the abuse would be of a racial kind, i.e., it would be people at BLM riots or meetings abusing the police, but in a way which was unusual. It was either BAME on BAME or whatever. Nobody, the very thing that they were trying to make us all equal, they were making unequal with the police. It's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, different aspects there. I'll deal with the abuse towards. I know many BAME police officers, police members of staff, etc. And the abuse they received throughout those BLM protests was just unbelievable and completely unacceptable. And this is a group that are apparently trying to highlight racism, yet we're using the most offensive racist terms to police officers. So it's just hypocrisy in the greatest scale, really, that they're there to highlight inequality and racist behaviour, and they're acting completely in a racist manner towards police officers. And there were some awful incidents of abuse, and I've stood next to officers, black and Asian officers, when they've been subject to this abuse. In respect to taking a knee, I listened to her interview this morning. I thought she was very good. I thought she explained it very well. And I've been in numerous public order situations, similar outside Downing Street, Whitehall, etc., getting loads of abuse. I could understand how maybe after such a significant period of time, a couple of officers felt, actually, if we just bent down and took the knee, maybe this would just diffuse it slightly, take the tension out of it. I personally wouldn't have done. But I can understand how maybe just a couple of officers felt, if we just do this, maybe they'll just calm it down a bit, wind it down a bit. They were almost being baited or required to do what the crowd wanted, which is for me would not be acceptable in that public order type situation.
Can I ask you this, Graham? Why on earth should a protester be allowed to be racist? We have race hate crimes in this laws in this country to police officers without being arrested. Why? Is it because it would start a bigger riot than already existed, or what?
Kelvin, you've answered, exactly. You've answered your own question. Exactly that. You have to take account of the situation that you're in, the circumstances that you're in, the numbers you are facing, the tension at the time, the conflict at the time. And I'm about to do a lesson on arrest today. Is arrest the best tactical option at that point in time with that individual, with the resources you've got and what you face? And quite often it isn't. That's why many times you'll see, and I think the Met have put an appeal out again today for assistance to identify people committing these types of offences at those events. There's post-event investigations, an exceptionally professional public order investigation crime team will look through the evidential footage, will look through CCTV images and social media images, identify people committing substantive criminal offences, and then put an appeal out subsequently to identify them and pursue them through the courts and criminally. So it's done at a later stage, which I can see for people like you and other members of the public looking at it, it's frustrating as to why aren't they being arrested there and then? But there are very good sound operational and tactical reasons why that isn't done at the time.
Do you get the impression that, bad that it is right now, that things are likely to become more tense between, the people we pay to protect ourselves, the people I personally look up to supply law and order to our country, who seemed, if they face more, they seem to have less power in some odd way?
I think, to some extent, that power, as you call it, that enforcement of the law has been reduced. It's been eradicated slightly by this, as I mentioned before, this negative narrative. And I think, speaking to officers, and I speak to numerous currently serving officers. I said I've been training hundreds over the last 6-7 years, so I'm in contact with many of them. I know they've got concerns. The fact that actually going out and enforcing the law, because of this negative reporting, is the people almost like looking for a police officer to do something wrong. There are some real concerns that it just needs one incident to trigger a real backlash against law and order, policing, etc. And we do not police that. Everybody mentions the George Floyd incident. We do not police by any context the way they do in America. We do not police public order events, protests, demonstrations the way they're done in America. So for me to compare the two was completely inaccurate. We have a much more like a friendlier, approachable, facilitating protests and demonstrations in the UK than they do in other countries. But I think there's some real concern within policing that it's almost like, and again, it comes down to partly the fact that people have had this lockdown for months. They haven't been able to go to the pub. They haven't been able to go to festivals. There's some tension in society that is, as we're seeing, violence is now increasing as people are coming back out onto the streets. I think there's a natural tension, frustration, anger, resentment within society generally, but definitely within certain sections of society. They're just waiting to almost like release that pent-up tension, and it's usually predominantly the police that are going to be at the front and facing that.
That's a shocking thing to say. I tell you what, we've been cooped up here with my mum and dad or somebody, on my mates, my job's at risk. I tell you what, I must go out and whack a copper. What a shocking world we're in. Graham, I'm very grateful for your time this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.